Human beings have been moving about this planet for over 200,000 years. And in that time, we've put a lot of questionable things into our mouths. Thanks to those who died after eating poisonous or toxic plants and animals, only to ensure the safety of others who didn't follow suit. Let's tell you about some of them. Starting with cashews. You might be able to find them in your kitchens. Pretty much anyone without a nut allergy has eaten handfuls of cashews in their lives, but that doesn't mean cashews can't be harmful. As a matter of fact, they can even kill you. But there's a catch. When you buy cashews, you're buying cooked nuts, because a raw cashew is not something you should ever put into your mouth. Raw cashews contain a chemical called urushiol, which is similar to the chemical found in plants like poison ivy and poison sumac. You wouldn't eat anything with poison in its name, and you definitely shouldn't eat raw cashews. If you do eat raw cashews, however, you'd likely experience painful irritation from ingesting them, but the danger is there. Fortunately, steaming raw cashews will remove the toxicity, which is how we are able to enjoy them all over the world. Moving on, at number 9, we have yet another fruit, the ackee. The national fruit of Jamaica contains a poison called hypoglycin. Ingesting the fruit before it has a chance to ripen fully will land you in the hospital if you're lucky, and the morgue if you're not. The fruit's dangerous levels of hypoglycin can cause severe vomiting, which has come to be known as Jamaica vomiting sickness. This is the kind of vomiting that can become so frequent and horrifying that people can die from it. You don't want that, do you? Fortunately, the fruit is edible. You just need to know when it's safe to do so. Just ask a local. Next at number 8, we have a staple food of many African nations. I'm talking about cassava. The tropical root crop is where tapioca comes from, so if you've ever had some tapioca pudding or boba tea, you've enjoyed a product from this plant. Fortunately, eating the plant is perfectly safe, just so long as you don't do it when it's still raw. If you eat it raw, you're almost certainly going to poison yourself, as raw cassava contains a toxin called linamarin. When linamarin enters your body, it converts into a deadly form of cyanide called cyanogenic glycoside. That's right, cyanide. One of the deadliest substances humans never want to come in contact with. But up next at 7 is yet another common food item that can have deadly side effects. Mushrooms are a delicacy that come in many shapes, forms, and sizes. Let's tell you about the forms of mushrooms that claim lives. Contaminated or stale mushrooms can be harmful to health, often resulting in slimy mold on the skin and getting infected with the bacteria botulinum. Botulinum is a neurotoxin that prevents the nervous system from reacting correctly. Also known as Botox, this toxin is often used in cosmetic procedures. While small doses and injections are not usually toxic, a large intake of improperly stored or canned mushrooms can lead to muscle paralysis and difficulty breathing. So always choose your shrooms wisely and avoid eating raw or unprocessed mushrooms. Moving on at 6, we have our first seafood dish, blood clams. You're always going to be taking a risk whenever you ingest a filter feeder like clams, but the dangers tend to skyrocket where blood clams are concerned. These delightful little buggers get their name from the large amounts of hemoglobin in their blood, which makes it a dark red. Other species of clams have clear blood, so the difference is rather striking. Despite looking like a small, bloody monster, blood clams are a delicacy in many parts of the Indo-Pacific region, where they are found. The concern with eating blood clams comes from the animal's remarkable ability to filter up to 40 liters of water each day. This is how the animal feeds itself, but it also ensures the clams will take in a wide range of bacteria and viruses, which aren't safe to eat in any situation. In areas where the water is particularly filthy, blood clams harvested there can pass on hepatitis A, E, dysentery, and typhoid. In Shanghai in 1988, over 300,000 people became violently ill from eating them, and 31 people died. It is estimated that 15% of people who eat blood clams pick up one infection or another. So is it worth the risk? But next at 5 is a pretty unusual food item and is responsible for some of the worst pain imaginable. I'm talking about eating the poisonous African bullfrog. Yep, people also eat frogs. The consumption of the entire frog takes place throughout Africa, but is mostly done in the country of Namibia, where it is considered a delicacy called efuma. In the eastern Luangwa Valley, The Nsenga people eat the frogs they call kanyama kalie fupam, which means the animal without bones. The African bullfrog's skin and other organs contain harmful toxins, which can lead to kidney failure and even death if ingested. Interestingly, a young frog that has yet to mate is far more lethal than older frogs, so it's important to avoid eating them before the mating season begins. Our list keeps getting weirder and deadlier from here. At 4, we have keister hakarl. This traditional Icelandic dish is made from the meat and skin of the Greenland shark. The problem arises from the fact that this particular species of shark lacks both a kidney and a urinary tract. Its waste has to go somewhere, so it does the only thing it can do. It filters its waste through its skin, so the skin contains high levels of uric acid and trimethylamine oxide. This passes on all sorts of nightmare fuel into the skin and potentially onto the dinner plate. Hakarl has been described by outsiders as the single worst, most disgusting, and terrible tasting thing they had ever eaten. In order to make the meat remotely palatable and safe to ingest, it has to be fermented and hung to dry for 6 months. Any less, and you run the risk of passing on any of a number of foodborne illnesses derived from ingesting the animal's waste and natural toxicity. Would you want to try it? Next on the list is another disgusting but well-loved food, live octopus. This popular yet frightfully disturbing delicacy is called sannakji and is found in Korea. This is a small baby octopus that has recently been killed. If you think that a dead animal can't hurt you, you've never tried to eat sannakji. The tentacles continue to wriggle after death, and when they come into contact with sesame oil, they violently jerk about, making the dish look as if it were alive. The problem with eating parts of an octopus containing suckers has to do with the fact that those suction cups still work when the tentacles are twitching. Swallowing it is a challenge, and while some connoisseurs get off on the sensation of having their food crawl up the back of their throats, many people die when their airway is blocked by a struggling tentacle. It's estimated that as many as 6 people die every year from attempting to eat the delicacy, which makes it one of the deadliest items on this list. Next at number 2 is Nomura's jellyfish, or Ishizen kurage. This is a large species of jellyfish capable of growing up to 2 meters in length and weighing in at a whopping 200 kilograms. Though they aren't exactly prized in the fishing industry and are a dangerous invasive species, they are consumed in places like Japan, where it is considered a delicacy. Typically, jellyfish meat isn't toxic so long as you don't eat the wrong parts, but that's where consuming Ishizen kurage becomes a dangerous food. Unlike blowfish, the concern isn't entirely about removing toxic parts. It's about cooking the meat properly. You cannot, under any circumstances, eat the meat of the Ishizen kurage raw. It must be cooked thoroughly, or you may find yourself ingesting toxic levels of the jellyfish's nematocyst venom. Typical envenomation can result in itching, swelling, pain, and inflammation, but that changes if you ingest it. Doing so can lead to a painful death. Despite the deadly nature of the Ishizen kurage, it can be prepared safely with proper training, but it's always a risk. And finally, at number 1, we have the most dangerous food in the world, pufferfish. These adorable fish inflate and have spines all over their bodies. Those little aquatic balls of fun can kill you should you order it off a menu somewhere. The Japanese art of preparing the meat of the pufferfish, which is called fugu, has long been a dangerous prospect for any sushi lover. Blowfish contain tetrodotoxin, which is a potent neurotoxin said to be 200 times deadlier to humans than cyanide. It is contained in the fish's reproductive organs, liver, and intestines. Normally, you wouldn't eat those parts of the fish, but that's where the danger in preparation comes into play. In order to serve fugu, a Japanese sushi chef must undergo a licensing and training process that takes 3 years. Anyone who orders fugu is made to understand just how deadly a slip of the chef's knife can be, and they really do put their lives in the hands of that chef. If a minute amount of the tetrodotoxin makes its way into the meat, there's little hope of surviving. First, you would feel numbness around the mouth, which would be quickly followed by paralysis, and ultimately death, which can occur in 20 minutes, or as long as 24 hours later. Anyone dying from contaminated fugu will remain conscious through the whole affair, which makes the pufferfish one of the deadliest fish you can eat. This is it for today's video. Thanks for watching. We will see you in the next one.